Well, I can't say what the essence of it is, but I mean, I can tell you what happened. It was, I was over at his house one day, and I went onto the backyard and I looked up into the sky, and I can't describe what happened, but I saw basically very concretely everything we've been playing with here over this weekend, like in one lump sum, bang, exploding in my face, you might say. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, what the fuck, what is this, what's happening? And Pino was standing there too, and I looked over at him, and I don't remember what I said, but I said something to him, and he just looked at me and nodded, and it was palpable that he was completely in sync with that. It was like, oh yeah, of course. And then we hung out for the rest of that afternoon and talked about different aspects of it that came up that I was just things in my mind, whatever. And it was very clear to me that what I had discovered, he lived there. He was quite at home in that context, which I sort of had intuited something along those lines, but I didn't really realize the depth of it, the actuality of it, before I saw this, this astounding whatever. I mean, it's of course it's impossible to verbalize it.
But there was a he that remained and a you that remained.
Well, it was as much of a he and
having the experience.
Sure, as much of a he and as much of a me as there ever was. I mean, it's very interesting because, right now for me, and I'm sure for you too, there's a me, but there's also all this, and all of this is not separate from the me. So it's sort of a coexistence. It's like talking about a daisy that's growing out of a lawn under the sky, and the sky comes with. So the daisy is there, but the sky's there too. And it's sort of silly to talk about the sky as being the daisy, but it sort of comes with. It's all one system. I mean, a simple way to put it is the experiential field is vast. It's huge. Not abstractly, but right now, experience is just this huge, vast space without any edges, most of which is just unfathomable weirdness and darkness and whatever. And there's also this sort of front and center bright spots of the sensory fields and the personality and thought and stuff that's also there. But the whole thing is right here. And the whole thing is this. I could say it's me, and that would be true, it is me. But talking about it as being me in a specific sense is kind of silly, because the me that I could refer to as me, Peter Brown, my personality and stuff, is just sort of here, wherever, is a relatively small aspect of this vastness, which is also here and is also this. I mean, it's that way for everyone. It's a matter of noticing that rather than achieving something that isn't the case now. But as I think the normal human mode is to enormously devalue and essentially ignore out of existence all of this background stuff, because we sort of think of it as being noise in the system, and what we focus on is, hey, what's front and center, what's going on, what's what's in it for me, where's the action, kind of playing whatever game we're playing, and that's we sort of limit the whole thing down to that. But if you look at the presence of your experience, that sort of layer of things happens, but it's happening in a vast space, most of which is not that, and most of which has nothing to do with that whatsoever. But it's there too, and we're used to sort of just ignoring it and denying it and censoring it out of existence. It's like, sort of, there's kind of a background to my experience, but like, so what? I don't pay attention to it. It's boring. There's nothing there. But in actual fact, it is there, and it's not boring. It's weird. It's interesting, and it's real. It's palpably real. As real as the sort of more foreground stuff that we usually, have front and center in the spotlight. What your dying looks like to you, you'll find out. But I think that the isness that is here, the actuality that is here, is beyond space and time. I don't think it's not a byproduct of and dependent upon the existence of the body. It's the other way around. The body is an outgrowth of it.
Right.
And I think when the body dies, it's going to be more or less analogous to going to sleep, in the sense that the body focus of orientation obviously won't be there the way we're used to it being there, but that doesn't mean that existence itself, being itself, presence itself, will cease.
Yeah.
And what happens then, if anything, if that's even a relevant question, will be certainly interesting to check out, I expect. And it has little mini stops all the time. I mean, you go into deep sleep and it kind of stops.
Yeah.
And you might go into a dream where you're less Beth. You ever had dreams where you're sort of a slightly different persona, or even a radically different persona?
Yeah, I leave all the time.
Yeah. And then,
She did that a minute ago.
yeah.
But it seems to be a recurring movie or something, or
Yeah.
recurring feeling or attachment or a sense of
Yeah, absolutely.
my.
Yeah, sure, yeah. And that's very interesting. What's up with that, I mean, we're all very familiar with that, but again, it's kind of like a movie facade. There's cracks in the facade, It's definitely there, and it's definitely that way, but there's inconsistencies and inconstancies that raise some interesting and provocative questions. Well, in my experience, I mean, compared to how I used to be, thinking back when I was a kid, my experience is vastly more. And I'm aware of my experience being vastly more continuous. I mean, when I sleep, I know I'm sleeping in some sense. I mean, it's not like I'm awake in a simple sense, looking at myself sleeping, but I kind of am. I mean, there's a part of me that knows I'm sleeping, and it's not an awake part of me, but it is definitely sort of present and active part of me. And the same when I'm dreaming. It's not as simple like a lucid dream, like I'm awake in my dreams. But when I'm dreaming, again, there's this same kind of I know I'm dreaming. And I couldn't possibly, sort of just pin down how, it's not like I'm outside the dream looking at it, but it almost is. I mean, I don't know how to put it. But basically, my experience has a great deal of continuity. As I go in and out of these various states, I experience them as sort of relatively minor textural changes within an essential continuity. And again, I wouldn't be able to accurately pin down exactly what I mean by that.
No, that communicates a lot.
I mean, I remember, as far as I'm aware, when I was a kid and something, I would go to sleep and I was just gone. I mean, I didn't, there was no me. And I mean, anyways, it seems to be different now in its sort of texture and it's the sort of the alertness of the whole thing somehow. I suspect I was always like that, but again, there's some kind of a internal censorship that hypnotic sort of a thing that sort of cancels it out or makes it not aware. Sort of the way the background of experience gets censored out and is sort of denied out of existence or just held to be noise in the system, and so it's ignored to the point where one isn't even aware of it, even though it's actually present. I mean, consciousness is such a slippery thing, and particularly awareness sort of point of focus is such a slippery thing. And it's so amenable to kind of hypnotic suggestion and stuff, external programming and internal programming, where it sort of becomes a self-fulfilling thing where you see things the way the programming suggests you to see it, and seems to the extent of seeming to cancel out anything else, even if there is a something else. It's all, so it's very weird in terms of, what one's focusing on versus what's actually there. By and large, my sense of awareness outside the focus, generically, not considering states of like wake, sleep, and things like that, but I used to be much more single-minded in my focus in my experience. When our experience tends to focus, as we all know, and I would sort of have very tunnel vision. That would be it, and there was nothing outside the edges. And now, when I'm in focus, I'm very aware of the field that's outside it is also being present, even if I'm, focusing on what's in the focus and attending to it. There's a sort of a palpable inclusion and really kind of a very explicit awareness of what's not in the focus, which there didn't used to be. And the sleep thing is kind of like that too. In a way, it's sort of like the sleep state is sort of in the focus, but that's within something else that is also there, that is not particularly asleep or awake. You can hang out with people. It's a fun way to play with psychic engagement. You can hang out with people and be aware of their physical presence, and then you can sort of shift gears up to the dream level, and then reach over and touch them on that level and see what the response is like on that level, and so on and so forth on various other levels and too. So, that kind of thing can be sort of just an interesting exploration to play with. Again, not that it's literally like that, but
it appears as such.
Yeah, it's a viable paradigm. It's a useful sort of a game structure. Pre-realization, there's a very heavy-handed hypnotic bias towards physicality as being real and actual, and anything else as being a fantasy. So these other modes, one can play with them, but there's a sort of a hypnotic, intense bias of, I'm just imagining this is nothing, and sort of as a nagging stance that's just sort of omnipresent, continually oppressing the engagement. But once one sees the arbitrariness of all these frames of reference, which is the essence of the vision, you could say, then I get it, why not? Prove it's not like that, Is the waking state, is the physical state really dominant? It's here, but there's a whole lot here that doesn't seem to be really very directly related to the physical condition. So what's up with that? And then you can play with that, without this kind of internal nagging bias of devaluating it or invalidating it that can happen. They're all referring. There's only one thing, and so all those ways are ways of referring to it. What is it? You're looking at it. What is it apparently structurally or quasi-structurally? It's not. You can't map it, but it's not totally devoid of structure, because it has these glaringly obvious sort of dimensions that coexist. Just specifically, it has the dimensions of the sense fields, which are all present and coexist strangely. You can't, so here's your field of vision, right, this oval. And your field of hearing is here, wherever here is. And where is the field of vision relative to the field of hearing in your experience? You can't say, well, they're close or far, or they're a little bit this way or a little bit that way. It's not a spatiality. They coexist. They don't get in each other's way. They're both within, sort of relatively differentiated textures within the experiential field, but you can't find any kind of a specific structurality that's related to it. And then you look at, where's thought happening? Where's the mind? The mind is the presence of some kind of an actual textural presence. Thought has a texture like light has a texture and sound has a texture. That's how you can tell the difference. You can tell a thought's a thought because it feels like a thought. You can tell a vision, sight is sight because it feels like light. They have a texture or a quality that is more or less immediately apparent. You find thought, okay, there's thought. Where is it? Here's the field of vision. The field of vision is very obvious. It establishes the most obvious spatiality. Where's thought happening with regard to it? They don't get in each other's way. They coexist, but location doesn't really apply. It doesn't have a geometry. It doesn't. You can't actually map it out. The whole thing gets very interesting, and then you begin to notice. But what are they all in? They're all kind of in the same, thing, the same whatever, the same thisness, the same meanness. It's possible to notice that, well, there's more than that too, because there's other qualities of experience that I can't qualify or classify as being within any of the sensory fields or being within mind per se. There's other experience of just sort of subtle vibes or subtle whatever, subtle flavors, subtle little zings. I mean, we don't have language for them because you can't refer to them sensorially. And where are they? What's that? And it's just, okay, so there's more dimensions too, and how many? Who knows? How many experiential textures are there? Is there any limit? Is there any boundary? And then you try and find the edges of any of these experiential fields, and you can't really find them. They kind of fuzz out, like one of those M.C. Escher paradox drawings where there's angels, and the angels get smaller and smaller and smaller to the end. And of course it's physical, so it kind of does have an edge, but if you were actually looking at angels getting smaller and smaller and smaller forever, you'd never get to an end of angels. But still it would just be here. And the visual field's kind of like that, It's finer and finer and fuzzier and fuzzier, but it never actually stops. You never actually hit a wall or fall off an edge. But still, there is a beyond it because for example, hearing is beyond it. Hearing is not in the field of vision proper. It sort of coexists with it in some strange way. But again, the point of this is not that you can get to the bottom of answering these questions of where these things are, but just asking the question gets you to look at it and begin to explore it for yourself and check it out.